I want to talk about something people usually think, but almost never say out loud. If you look at the real world, not spiritual theory, not Instagram quotes, it often looks like bad people succeed. And if you're someone who tries to be ethical or considerate and do things the right way, you've probably asked yourself this at some point: why do bad people succeed while I feel stuck? And for a long time, that question bothered me too. And this isn't just theory for me. I spent the last decade building a $40 million business, hosting a podcast with over 2 million listeners a month, and coaching thousands of people on how to master their thoughts and create their reality. And what I've seen again and again is this: reality doesn't respond to good intentions, it responds to alignment. So in this episode, I want to show you why bad people succeed, why manifestation flows toward people who are internally aligned even when their values are questionable, and how you can step into that same level of certainty, clarity, and power without having to turn to the dark side. So let's get into it. All right, guys, I want to start by talking about why life often feels unfair and why that feeling is real. You are not imagining this. Life often rewards the ruthless first. I mean, you can just look around the world today. You can look at the corruption, the games that the wealthy are playing, the artificial inflation of the stock market, all of the things that we see going on in our government today, where congressmen and congresswomen, no matter what country you live in, whoever runs your government are getting wealthy through insider information. It's clear that the world does not run on morality. It runs on power, it runs on coherence, and it runs on action. So I want to break this down for you today. Good people feel betrayed because, frankly, we were taught the wrong rules. There's this idea that if I'm a good person, then life's going to reward me. And that's not true, sort of. That's not how the laws of reality function. Fairness is a comforting story, but it's not a law of reality. And when you understand this, you stop swirling in the confusion of why are all these bad people, the people who are cheating the system, the people who are actually doing what we would look at and say evil things in the world, getting rich and getting powerful, and feeling like there's something wrong with you. Instead, you can align yourself with wealth, prosperity, and power that is actually sustainable, and you can use your vibration for good rather than evil. So let's first talk about why quote unquote bad people seem to rise faster. Well, the reason that bad people are able to align themselves with the laws of creation and manifestation so easily is, number one, they act without hesitation. And part of that has to do with not having a moral compass, not really caring about what other people think, not really being concerned about whether or not what you're going to be doing is hurting other people. It is a truly ego-driven, selfish desire. But those types of behaviors and that type of thinking is not an internal division. So bad people don't outsource their identity and approval to other people. They don't care what other people think. They operate with certainty even when wrong. And reality rewards certainty. Because when you are undivided, when you are non-resistant inside of you, and you have what Napoleon Hill would talk about as a burning desire with non-resistance, you can create results very, very quickly. In other episodes, I talk about what I consider to be the master equation for creating success, wealth, health, prosperity, everything that you want. And that is desire plus non-resistance equals desired result. So that non-resistance or that alignment, or what we could call coherence, it beats morality in competitive environments. I want you to think about this environment that we all live in as a competition for the purposes of this conversation. Now, in other episodes, I talk about how there really is no such thing as competition. But you can think about the public markets, the reality that we live in, the wanting to achieve business success or achieve some sort of wealth as a vibrational competition. And the vibration of certainty and non-resistance will outperform and outcompete morality every single day. So you can think about this as the survival of the strongest vibration, not survival of the just or survival of the moral. Now, in a moment, I'm going to talk about the value of morality in terms of a long-term creation. But a lack of guilt means uninterrupted, consistent action. When you don't stop on a daily basis questioning what you did or feeling guilty about it or feeling ashamed of it, you're not wasting time and wasting energy on those types of emotional and psychological behaviors. And so you tend to be in a more consistent type of action. And some of the people who we see who are the wealthiest people in the world today, they're in consistent action because they're not stopping to be considerate of others. They're not questioning what they did or second guessing themselves. But good people often live with this internal contradiction. Good people struggle more with things like indecision, procrastination, self-sabotage, shame. And this is a helpful habit for self-reflection, right? Hey, how am I functioning or operating in a way that doesn't feel congruent with who I want to be, right? This is an important part of self-improvement. But then when the ego inserts itself into that process of self-reflection and self-awareness, and we feel shame and we self-blame, that drains our energy. And that then lowers our vibration. And in a vibrational competition, in a vibrational ecosystem where it's a survival of the greatest vibration, evil will win out over good every single time. It's important to understand that the universe, in a sense, when we talk about manifestation or creating, is in many ways neutral. The geometry or the laws of creation are neutral. Now, we're going to talk about the consideration for being noble, for being humble, for being good here in a moment. There's a huge consideration for that. But just purely in terms of manifesting, in terms of getting rich and creating a business or being successful or influencing others or having control or power in the world, power is fundamentally neutral. And this is most often misunderstood. So the opportunity, if we're interested in it, is to not only be powerful, but also to be good, to be self-aware and self-reflective, but not self-loathing. But the laws of the universe, if you want to call it the laws of attraction, they're not particularly considerate of you being good or bad. Again, that's why we often see that the people who accumulate the most wealth, the most power in the world are not necessarily good, but they're undivided within themselves. They're not wasting a lot of time and energy considering what other people think or questioning whether the thing they did was the right thing for them to do. They're just in consistent action and consistent, uninterrupted, high vibration from a certainty and confidence standpoint. But again, the opportunity is for us to, and I think this is really where the emergent human being is stepping forward, the loving, noble, powerful creator. I think this is a change that's taking place in humanity today, where we're going from thousands of years of those who are confident and those who are certain also being those who may be more morally corruptible and therefore having a reality that benefits the few rather than the many. There's this emergence now of what some may refer to as a Christ consciousness, which is being in alignment with these creative principles and creative laws, being connected and guided by the God of your own understanding or higher power, while also being good. So to be self-aware and self-reflective, but not self-loathing. And this is something, if I look back on my life, in terms of when I feel like I became a better person, and also I can see a direct correlation with the amount of money in my bank account, clarity on my purpose, my connection to a higher power, my attracting an amazing relationship into my life, being more successful in business, all the things. I learned this in my 12-step recovery, my alcohol, drug, and sex addiction recovery. To say, okay, look, I made a mistake. I did something that is not a reflection of who I want to be. I hurt another person. I will make an amends for that. Hey, I'm sorry that I did this or said this, but I won't dwell on it. This was one of the gifts of my addiction recovery, and something my sponsor and the other people in my program, my recovery program, really helped me understand was, if I stay in the shame, I'll end up in a shame spiral, and I'm more likely to go out and drink or drug or sex again because the shame spiral is so uncomfortable. So it was very important to acknowledge my wrongdoing, but not to judge or blame myself. And the way that I did this was to fundamentally understand that at any given moment, I'm doing the best that I'm capable of, based on my programs, my traumas, the circumstances in the moment, my emotional urges, the temptations or situations or circumstances around me. And I'm not always going to choose what optimally I would choose if I could look back and make a different decision. In the moment, I'm always making the best decision that I can, even when it's a decision that's not congruent with who I really want to be. So when I reflect upon it, I give myself permission to have done it while also holding myself accountable to others around me who I may have harmed and making amends. Hey, it's David. Quick interruption to your regularly scheduled podcast episode. I want to let you know about an opportunity to go even deeper into this work together. If you have not yet, please check out the show notes. In there, we've got links to both our Mind Hack and our Whole Human Framework programs. Our Mind Hack course is an incredible framework. It's the foundation of everything that I teach on this show to help you understand how to become deeply aware of the subconscious programs that are holding you back, and to teach you the technologies and frameworks to allow you to dramatically transform those belief systems and rewire your brain. Again, the Mind Hack program is our 7-day self-paced program. We also have our 12-week course, The Whole Human Framework. And we've got both of them right now bundled in a special offer for those of you who want to go big, want to go fast, and who understand that you don't want to put off another day of your full potential or holding on to unnecessary stress, anxiety, or suffering, but you want to be liberated from these habits of thinking and have a powerful living experience. Check out the link in the show notes. Jump on over to the website. Take a look at the programs and the extraordinary success stories of entrepreneurs just like you who have gone through these courses, and I will see you on the other side. And now, back to your regularly scheduled podcast episode. Recently I had a client that did some things he wasn't proud of. He made some decisions in his business out of ego that are having consequences. He was moving too fast. He wasn't being thoughtful. He was being driven by a need for speed, and he did some things that hurt other people. And so on our call, he was super down. He was having what looked like to me a pity party. And, I let him have the party for a minute. And then I said, look, bro, get over yourself. Stop the pity party. Go make amends to the people that you've hurt. And now let's just do the next thing and let's go. That's real power. My buddy Paco, who's in my recovery program in my AA meetings, he said to me, people come in and they feel so guilty about their life. They're like, look at my life. Look what I did. Look how I've ruined it. And Paco's like, get over yourself, man. Move on. That's all we can do is learn from the past, become better, and do our best moving forward. That's real power. The people who are rising now are not perfect people. They're broken people who are putting the pieces back together to become even stronger. That's what's so incredible at about this point in time right now, why I believe in the certainty of the goodness of the future, and why I love that you're here, and I love the community that we're building, because we're not showing up like we're perfect. We're just showing up humble and learning from the mistakes that we make to become better people, and aligning ourselves with certainty and confidence and power so that we can create good things in the world out of good people. Because good is a high vibration. It is a higher vibration than evil. But you must combine good with confidence and with certainty and with faith. Evil is ego, right? Some people describe the ego as an acronym, edging God out. Evil is ego without God. And you can create from there. It's almost like black magic. But you can only get so far on that. When you are good, but self-loving, not self-loathing, and you believe in a God of your own understanding, you believe that there is a higher power that is governing the system, then whatever's out there that seems to be evil, it can't touch you. I love the story of David and Goliath. I love that there's this little shepherd boy who has a sling and a stone, and he's face to face with the mightiest warrior in the Philistine army, and he goes out on the battlefield. You can imagine 2 armies watching this little boy and a giant, terrifying warrior. And the little boy says, I know who I am. I know who I stand for. I know that there is a God in my life, and I know that God and good triumph over evil. That is an example of the level of confidence and certainty that evil people have, but aligned with good. And what happens in that day on that battlefield is good, or God wins out over evil in an impossible, miraculous way. But that is the story of what can happen in our lives with the Goliaths that we face on a day-to-day basis. Whether your Goliath is your chronic health condition or autoimmune disease, whether your Goliath is your addiction, whether your Goliath is the financial insecurity that you've been experiencing, not just for years, but perhaps for generations. It doesn't matter what the Goliath is in your life, you can slay it. And we together can slay the Goliaths that are out there in the world. The corrupt financial systems, the corrupt governments. We can create a new promised land when we align ourselves with the goodness inside of us, with that confidence and with that faith. Powerful, faithful, confident, and humble. The Bible says that the meek shall inherit the earth. And it's like, well, what does that mean? Like the weak shall inherit the earth? No, the meek were not the weak. The meek were those who aligned themselves with faith and with confidence and with good and with God, and they were able to accomplish miracles. You look at Abraham's humility to almost sacrifice his child until the last minute. God says, hey, just kidding. Just wanted to see how meek you were, how humble you were, how much you were going to allow me to direct your life so that you could become the father of new nations. Who is meek in the Bible? We say meek is Moses. Was Moses meek? No, Moses was a battle warrior. I mean, this was a guy that went to Pharaoh and said, you will free the Hebrews, the slaves, And through his energy and vibration, he allowed the plagues that God brought upon the Egyptians. Then he leads the Hebrew slaves out of Egypt into the promised land of the unknown. And when Pharaoh and his armies were in pursuit, outstretched his hand because he heard what God said, and being humble to God, parted the Red Seas. I mean, the dude was like a Gandalf on steroids. You look at what David accomplished, and then you look at Jesus as the full embodiment of these principles and the miracles that he was able to perform. That's meekness, that's humility, but it's certainty and it's faith, and that's what real power is. That's why good will always win out over evil. But for thousands of years, evil has understood this, and goodness has been plagued by this lack of self-esteem, this self-judgment, this indecision, this procrastination. But as you start to understand the laws of the universe, you set those things aside. You become no longer subservient to the ego, but a king or queen of your own inner kingdom. And now you can perform miracles in the world on behalf of a power greater than yourself. That's part of the meekness and the humility. I'm not doing it. I'm facilitating it on behalf of the one power that there is. On earth right now, we are in a transition from artificial power to real power. From the power of egoic vibration to the power of being plugged in to the main source. And so if you really truly want to be successful and wealthy, you don't need to become ruthless. In fact, you can't be. You want to become whole. You want to become undivided in your identity, because that creates certainty. I know who I am. I know what I'm connected to. I know who I serve. And that certainty creates a presence, and that presence commands reality. And this is the difference between force, which is what we've been seeing in the world, and authority, delegating authority in the world. It's important to understand that evil, as we view it in the world today, while it may temporarily have power, it's not sustainable. It may even be sustainable in the course of one's life, but what you carry to the next life is really the quality of your soul. And so whether you learn the lesson in this life or the next one, the lesson will be learned. And so if you truly want to create value for yourself on both the material plane and the soul plane, it's about learning how to balance confidence and certainty and faith and a connection to a higher power with what you create here now and what you bring with you in terms of who you've become later on. Because the ruthless rise and then they fall, right? Power built on fear catalyzes and gives birth to God-driven power. What I mean by that is we have all been subjugated to hundreds, if not thousands of years of fear-based power, and that has compressed us, and now we are the seeds of this emergent God-driven power. So evil has served its purpose in catalyzing and inspiring the emergence of real power through us. That's what's happening right now. Even though it may seem like bad people have power, it doesn't last. And like I said, the real game is not what we do here, but what we carry into the next life, because the soul is eternal. So there are consequences for those who gain earthly riches from an immoral place. Real success is achieved through the game that you and I are actually playing. The way you level the playing field is to find certainty and confidence in knowing who you are, where you came from, not from your ability to control people or manipulate reality, but by knowing you are perfect and humbling yourself to something greater than you. You know, I try to wake up every single day. I don't do it every day, but I try my best, aligned with a better vision for myself and for the world, and accepting of the challenges that come, knowing they are shaping me into an unstoppable force for good. Try to wake up and say, reporting for duty, sir. Reporting for duty, ma'am. And this is the lesser worn path. Most people are not walking this path. This is the path through the brambles and the branches and the bushes, but that's what makes you stronger, right? That's why we consider ourselves spiritual warriors. If you want more money, if you want more power, you can have it. But the real treasure is who you become in the process. It's the long game of life, but it's worth it. There are a lot of shortcuts out there, and you can say yes to them. But every time you do, you're cheating yourself from becoming more courageous, from becoming stronger, from becoming more resilient. If you're willing to take the lesser worn path, it will give you more that you could ever imagine in this life. And the beautiful thing is you get to carry it to the next. So many things I could have done to make more money, do things faster, lots of opportunities I could have pursued, lots of things I did do before I got clean and sober. And we see others doing it, but that's their journey. It's not ours, right? Our journey is the slower, harder path, but it's worth it. So if you take anything from this, let it be this. The world doesn't reward good or bad. It responds to alignment. The reason ruthless people rise faster isn't because they're right. It's because they're undivided. And the invitation for you isn't to lose your values. It's to stop losing yourself, to stop losing your relationship with the higher power of your own understanding. Because when goodness is paired with certainty and humility and confidence and faith and action, that's real power. That's the kind of power that lasts. That's the kind that can't be taken from you. And so you don't need to win fast because you're playing the long game of character, of soul, and of legacy. So I hope you love this episode as much as I loved sharing it with you. It is an honor to be on the journey with you. If you have not yet, you're following along on YouTube, do me a favor, subscribe. My team loves to see that this community is growing. Leave me a comment or a question. I try to answer as many as I possibly can. If you're listening on the audio platform, same thing. If you've been a listener for a while, please give us a rating or review on whatever platform you're listening on. And if you want to join the community, hop on over to davidbear.com, opt in. We've got all kinds of events, courses, trainings, programs, community gatherings, because this is not a do-it-yourself project. It is a do-it-with others. I'm so grateful to be here with you today. I love you so much, and I will see you in the next episode.